Okay, it is 6:30 and we are ready to go.
All right, we're ready and we have a quorum.
Yes, sir, we do.
All right, good evening, everyone. I now call to order the Thursday, June 24, 2021 meeting of the City of Sugar Land Planning and Zoning Commission. Item 2A is public comment. Do we have anyone who has submitted written comments to be read during the meeting or signed up to request to speak at tonight's meeting?
No, sir.
All right, then I will close the public hearing period, and we'll move on to item 3A, consideration of an action on the minutes of the June 8, 2021 meeting. You'll have the minutes in your packets. Any changes to the minutes, or do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
I believe that was Commissioner Hart. Do we have a second?
Second.
I couldn't see who seconded it. Sorry.
I think that was Commissioner Simone.
It was me.
Yeah.
Okay, got a motion to approve the minutes by Commissioner Hart and a second from Commissioner.
Actually, sir, it was Commissioner Simeon and then Commissioner Brown.
All right, thank you for the clarification. Sorry, I was just going off of whose Zoom window I saw light up. We have a motion and a second if you'll vote at this time.
I'm an affirmative. My screen's not coming up.
All right, that passes unanimously among the commissioners present. Item 4A, public hearing. At this time, we will receive and hear all persons interested in the proposed change in zoning from interim standard single-family residential R1I to standard single-family residential R1 for 4.81 acres located at 12430 Alston Road in the Brown and Belknap League Abstract 15. And Laura Waller, you have a report for us?
Yes. So starting with a basic overview, there's just under 5 acres here outlined in black there on the right. This is along Alston Road, which is in the middle of the Ashford Lakes sections 1 and 8. It was annexed in 2004 along with the property that would then become Ashford Lakes section 8. And the zoning was then applied as interim single family standard. Since 2004, the property owner has begun development and is now requesting the zoning to be R1 standard, as that is what he is proposing to plat the property as. Next slide. So here is an aerial map of the area. It has been cleared of all large trees, but there is some scrub brush, some taller grasses. Here you can also see that at the rear of the property is a large single family, more rural area. And then to either side in the south is single family standard residential in Ashford Lakes sections 1, 8, and 5. And again, the property has remained vacant since its annexation. And so the owner is now ready to move forward with platting and developing the property as standard single family homes. Next slide. The future land use excerpt and the comprehensive plan do categorize this property as a suburban neighborhood, which is in line with the surrounding uses and does align with the standard single family residential district. Next slide. Here are a couple of photographs. You can see there on the left is the public hearing sign, as well as what the front of the property currently looks like. And then on the right is a picture taken from the crack in the fence, so I could get a clear picture. You can see that it is primarily just tall grass. Next slide. The public hearing requirements were all met, and a courtesy sign was posted at the property, as well as mailers sent out to owners and the Ashford Lakes HOA. There was also published notification in the newspaper and online. We did receive 3 inquiries, 2 by phone and 1 by email. And at the time of writing the slides, we had one online comment form, but as of today, we've had 4 online comment forms come in. So there has been some concern from the Ashford Lakes HOA board members, just wanting to make sure that this was going to be single family homes and that it would not affect their property values negatively. Next slide. So your initial points for consideration tonight, this is just under 5 acres and annexed in 2004. However, permanent zoning is required prior to development. It's currently unplatted and undeveloped, just cleared. The requested zoning is compatible with the existing zoning districts that are surrounding it, as well as with the comprehensive plan and thoroughfare plan. Next slide. Therefore, staff does recommend at the close of the public hearing that the commission move forward with the approval of the recommendation to mayor and city council for the rezoning of approximately 4.81 acres. Staff and the property owner and consultant are available for any questions after the close of the public hearing.
Thank you, Laura. All right, at this time, I'll formally open the public hearing to receive and hear all persons interested in the proposed zoning change from interim standard single-family residential R1I to standard single-family residential R1 for 4.1 acres located at 12430 also Representative Brown and Belknap League Abstract 15. Do we have anyone here for the public hearing?
Yes, I would like to speak if I could. I'm Wynn Johnson. I'm under Wendy Johnson there.
Okay, and would you just,
How are you doing?
good evening, ma'am. If you would just state your name, your address for the record, and we'll receive your comment.
Sure. My name is Wynn Johnson. My address is 12222 Ashford Valley Drive here in Sugar Land. And our zip is 77478.
Thank you. Please, we'd be happy to receive your comment at this time. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, actually, I had about 8 or 9 of the comments that I did email. They have been addressed. Laura has addressed some of them. One of the things the comment that I would like to just strongly make is that Ashford Lakes is undergoing, we're going to have to undergo a change in our masonry wall. And it's quite extensive and it's quite expensive. And so one of the things that we were concerned about is that if this particular piece of property comes up with a different type of masonry wall, we're concerned about aesthetically how that will look for us. But more importantly, we're concerned about the safety issues. We have a fence-creek fence as it stands right now, and probably as I'm talking, it's falling apart in the street. And it has significantly fallen in an intersection. And when school starts on Austin Road, Barrington Elementary is on Austin Road. And so we are concerned that whatever fence structure they put up would meet the same type of standards that we're about to, take the expense on of replacing our existing fencing. So that's one of the things. And then I think I speak on behalf of a lot of us in the neighborhood that we're really concerned about. We're making this investment with the fence, and we're just concerned about what type of houses would be put in there, because it's only 4.81 acres of land, and any type of housing that they put in there would probably have to be a 0 lot line almost. So, and that would devalue us. So we just wanted to have our voices clearly heard about this, and I'm sure you can appreciate where I'm coming from.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We really appreciate you taking time to attend the meeting and for your interest in the issue and for making on the record comment. Do we have anyone else here signed up for a public comment or for the public hearing?
Hi, I'm Hema Brahmbhatt, and I wanted to add on to this comment as Ms. Wendy Johnson just mentioned. I too live in Ashford Lakes. I'm one of the board members alongside her, and I want to just, pass this comment that it's not just me or her, but it's the entire Ashford Lakes. who is speaking on this behalf. We are very concerned because this plot has been unused for over 20 years. And our neighborhood has grown up to be 20-year-old now. And this is a new neighborhood that's coming up in our section, in our division. The plot sits exactly in between both of our sections. Ashford Lakes is built between two sections, in different sections, in 4 sections. If you look up, it's in 4 different sections. And this particular plot is right in between 2 of our sections. One is an older section of 20-year-old and the other is 15-year-old. And it sits right in between that. And we want to make sure that the perimeter fence that we are building, it really matches with the new builders and whatever they're going to build, and the safety issues, because there are walkers, there are kids who walk from Barrington Place all the way to the second section, crossing the lot in between. And we don't want to have this issue 10 years down the lane where we are scared about our kids walking down that lane. Another very important thing that I want to add to this is for this particular fence that we are building, we have come to City of Sugar Land, and City of Sugar Land has helped us. They've given us a grant for $150,000 to be in 2 phases, phase 1 and phase 2. So it's something that the city is also investing in with us, and we want to make sure that that investment does not go in vain, Thank you.
And thank you very much for your comment. Would you mind stating your address for the record, please?
Sure. It's 11338 Burmese Lane, Sugar Land, Texas, 77478.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank you as well for your interest in this issue and for taking the time to appear before the commission this evening and give us your comment. Thank you very, very much for your input.
Thank you so much for hearing us out. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Anyone else wish to address the commission in public hearing at this time? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing then, and we will move on to discussion of this item by the commissioners present. And look at the screen here. Commissioner Englund, I would like to start with you, if you'd like, comments or questions.
I'm sorry, excuse me, Mr. Chair. Can you read the caption, please? Consideration and action.
Yes. Okay. This time we'll move on to our discussion regarding consideration and action of the proposed change in zoning from interim standard single-family residential R1I to standard single-family residential R1 for 4.1 acres located at 12430 Alston Road in the Brown and Belknap League, Abstract 15.
You had asked if I had any comments. So after reviewing all the questions that the residents had and the answers from staff, as well as driving by the property, at this time, I don't have any other additional questions.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hart?
Yes, I have a few questions, and also I thank you for the public for showing up. It's great to hear people's voices. That's what we're here for. Can staff tell me what's the minimum lot dimensions for R1?
60 by 110.
I don't see how. Can you staff tell me how that fits? I think it's only 232 feet wide-ish.
So there will be enough room for 1 lot depth, a street, and then 1 lot skinny lot width. So that's how they're planning to fit in approximately 14 homes.
Okay. So they will do that. They won't be like a duplex kind of.
No, they will be single family standard homes, not 0 lot line standard with 5 feet on either side.
And you're saying about 14 homes will fit in here based upon that?
Approximately, based on some preliminary exhibits we've received.
And that has a cul-de-sac at the end, I assume?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How are they, can I ask, how are they getting their detention requirements in for development?
I believe that there will be a detention pond at the rear.
Okay.
But again, it's still in the very preliminary phase.
Sure,
We're still
sure.
addressing comments with them.
Okay. And since the public made the comment, when they don't have to submit any kind of a development plan apart from a preliminary and final plat, right? Because it's so small. So they're just going to be governed to address the fencing concerns. They're just going to be governed by the fencing standards for the city currently, right?
Correct. So there is a subdivision requirement that a 6-foot masonry sound wall be constructed with any new neighborhoods.
Okay. And just since the public is here listening, what's the recourse? I guess when the plat comes in, can the commission make comments to the developer about trying to match the walls of the adjacent developments?
So we actually cannot regulate building material or finishes aside from the fact that it be constructed of masonry.
Okay. But we can make a comment about
You could suggest, but it cannot be enforced.
Yes, it can't be enforced, but we can suggest about being a good neighbor and the like. Okay. Okay, those were my only questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hart. Commissioner Brown, questions or comments?
You're muted, Chuck.
Most popular phrase of this era, right, is you're on mute. Now, thank you again to the citizenry that came to make comment. It's good to see you here. And Commissioner Hart, I think, asked all the questions I intended to ask, so I've got no further questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ushol?
All right, we're live. Yes, exactly. Make sure we're off mute. Thank you for joining. Love to see our HOA, our neighbors in on these things. And that brings up the question I have. Was this slot just this little wedge, this little piece missing in the HOA lines when they were drawn?
It was a holdout tract. The property owner did not want to sell to the developer that developed Ashford Lakes.
Okay. That explains that. It looks odd, and it looks like it was a previous part of the track. Maybe the lot just north of this track looks like a little bit of an oddity. Is that somehow related to this track?
It is also a holdout tract, but it is in no other way associated.
Okay. It looked like it might have been the same part at one point, so I was just curious if they were going to try to grab that street from there. Okay, that answers those two questions. And you already answered 14 homes is what they're going to try to fit in here?
Approximately, that is what the current plans show. But again, it's still very fluid as they're still addressing pretty major comments.
And then as far as access into Alston, will this, when we get this plat, will we be able to determine that they create a 4-way intersection here? Or will we have kind of an odd intersection here at Alston and
that's addressed? Yeah, you're on the right track. It's addressed through the plat and the report that comes through the plat. That's reviewed by.
Okay. All right. Those are the questions I have. And once again, great to see our neighbors' faces here. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Commissioner Canine.
Thank you. Commissioner Hart took care of all the comments, questions that I had. Thank you.
All right. Dan, anything from you?
Nothing from me, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Just a couple things really quick, Laura. So the comment was made that in response to a question earlier that we cannot regulate with respect to the wall, that we as the P&Z cannot regulate the building materials, correct? And I want to be clear that that's not necessarily by choice of this commission, but that's the law of the state of Texas that was imposed a few, not the most recent, but I guess the prior legislative session that prohibits entities like this commission from regulating building materials as long as those building materials appear in one of the 3 national code books. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so it's not, all right. So we don't have the legal ability to do that, in other words, at this time. Okay. And the only other thing that I would ask, just so you've made the comment a couple times that this is real early, And so if you just kind of walk us through the steps that would lead us to where we are now to eventual development. So right here, we're talking about moving just the zoning from interim standard single family R1I to standard. So we're moving it from interim to real. So what would the next step be?
So the next step is the preliminary plat that will show us approximately the dimensions of the lots and how they plan to basically just cite their plat itself. After that, once that is approved by the commission, then, once all comments are addressed, it goes to the commission for review. And then if the commission approves it, they move to their final plat. The final plat has a little bit more to it, a lot more specifics as far as dimensions, as well as the HOA documentation is reviewed by staff at that point, as well as a full finalized TIA and infrastructure construction plans are also submitted at that time. Only the final plat, however, is reviewed by the commission, but that would be reviewed by you and then recorded with Fort Bend County. And then after that, once the final plat is recorded and the infrastructure plans are approved, then they would be able to begin construction. Well, they would get their land disturbance permit so that they can start breaking ground, moving ground, and begin their construction.
Okay, thanks very much for walking through that. I think it's helpful, particularly for the members of the public that are here tonight, to kind of understand where in the potential life cycle of this development we're at. And so tonight we're being asked to consider and act on the proposed zoning change itself. And the staff recommendation is that R1 is appropriate for this particular tract at issue, and it's consistent with the surrounding properties.
Yes, that is correct. All the surrounding property is R1 standard, and that is what this property is zoned to be as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Laura, for answering those questions. I have nothing further from me. And I think we've heard from all the commissioners present. So do I hear a motion? Well, I guess I need to read it again. I'm out of practice. I'm sorry. Or do I? I'll take my cue from Chris or someone else. I think I've read it. I think we've had discussion. So I think I can entertain a motion if anyone cares to make a motion.
Yes.
Correct.
I move that we make a recommendation to City Council to approve the proposed change in zoning from interim standard single-family residential R1-I to standard single-family residential R-1 for 4.81 acres located at 12430 Alston Road in the Brown and Belknap League, Abstract 15.
Thank you. We've got a motion by Commissioner Simeon. I'll second it. Any further discussion? All right, if you'll vote at this time. All right, I had a partial screen there for a minute, but couldn't see. It looks like it motion carries unanimously among the members present. So thank you, commissioners, for your discussion. Thank you again to the members of the public who appeared before us to address these issues. And I guess we'll stay tuned as this development progresses. Moving on to item 5A, consideration of an action on a recommendation of the fiscal year 2022-2026 capital improvement program to the mayor and members of city council. We will receive a report, I believe, from Keisha Seals at this time.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. Tonight, I am going to step you through the review of the draft list of the new projects for FY22 through 26. This is per the city charter, section 501D, which you are to receive, or I am to receive a recommendation from P&Z to go to city council and to the city manager for the 5-year capital improvement program. Next slide, please. So this is a draft list. I do want to make mention of that. And it remains a draft until City Council approves the recommended projects. There is no reference to funding this evening, and the project or list is not fiscally constrained this evening. We receive sources for our projects from many different places. Some of those are the City Council and city staff. PERs, studies, master plans, and various assessments, as well as the development agreements. Citizens and civic groups that present or submit capital improvement program requests, as well as regulatory mandates. Next slide, please. There are 9 divisions within the CIP: airport, drainage, municipal, parks, streets, traffic, surface water, water, and wastewater. Not all 9 disciplines have new projects each year, but what I will do is step you through all 9 of the disciplines so you can see which projects or which disciplines are recommending projects to move forward. So as you can see on this first slide, airport has no new projects, so very simple for them, as well as drainage has no new projects. The next slide is the municipal projects. There is one project that is being recommended to move forward in FY23. This is the Emergency Preparedness Program. This program will predominantly be funded through various FEMA and emergency management grants, which would require the city to have matching funds. This list is a prioritized program developed by staff and by best management practices, which have been identified as far as equipment and infrastructure needs for continual emergency operations. Next slide. And again, this project is a citywide project because it would help all facets of our emergency operations. And so the map that you see is just identifying that it is citywide. Next slide. Next, we'll step into parks. There are a couple of parks recommended projects to move forward. The first one is the 65-acre community park. This was recommended by our 2018 Parks and Recreation and Open Space Master Plan. This project will revisit some of the programming and lay out the park to move it forward and create really a destination and a centralized location within the city. It will also include improvements to the existing cemetery by designing for a historic and cultural destination sites. The next project is the skate park relocation to Crown Festival Park. Now, the skate park is existing. Currently, it is in City Park, but we are looking to relocate that skate park to Crown Festival Park to allow for more synergy within Crown Festival Park. That would complement the mountain bike trails that we currently have and the proposed pump track that we are looking to install. The project will also include converting the existing skate park to a covered pickleball court. So different amenities, but definitely great opportunities to provide activities for our residents in both locations. And the next slide would just be the overall map that would show the approximate locations for the 65-acre as well as the skate park. Next slide. Next, we'll step into the streets. There are a few new projects that are being recommended. The first one is the Brook Street and First Colony Boulevard intersection improvements. As you know, we are wrapping up the State Highway 6 widening project. So this project will follow behind the opening of the widening, and it will combine the intersection improvements from First Colony and Brook Street by constructing geometric design as well as signal timing improvements to have concurrent dedicated left turn movements from Brook Street as well as First Colony Boulevard approaches. This will certainly improve traffic congestion and overall mobility at that intersection and will be a great asset to the area, the neighboring area. The next project is the University of Houston Sugar Land Campus Roadway Project. That's a mouthful. But this project, due to the closure of the southbound US 59 turnaround, as you know, as the Brazos River turnaround, it has caused many challenges for us traffic-wise, certainly many issues as far as access is concerned to the city's Brazos River Park, as well as U of H Sugar Land's campus. So TxDOT has agreed to move forward with an advanced funding agreement to construct this project in lieu of trying to reopen and reconstruct the southbound U-turn lane, as we know as Brazos River turnaround. So this project will be the design and construction of a 4-lane boulevard section with side paths, as well as 2 collector connection roadways and sidewalks within the U of H campus that will connect to University Boulevard. And finally, the University Boulevard widening intersection improvements. There was a 2020 Fort Bend County mobility bond, that approved funding for the intersection improvements along University, which would allocate funds to various locations for safety and enhanced mobility. So this project will be the design and construction of those intersection improvements at Westcott as well as Brantford Place. Next slide, please. And this is just a map showing the locations of those projects. Next slide. Stepping into traffic, there are a couple of projects that have been identified, really based off of mobility. Definitely mobility is one of our top priorities for residents. And so for the fiber optic cable installation, our intelligent transportation system cannot effectively communicate if we don't have reliable fiber optic. So this is an opportunity for us to install some fiber optic, which we are looking at US 90A as one of the first locations where we would install the fiber optic along the corridor within the city limits. And then this will also help the county connect our neighboring cities within their own jurisdiction as the fiber optic cable is installed in their areas as well. The ITS railroad monitoring, if you live in Sugar Land, then you absolutely have been stopped by a train once or twice in your life. So with that being said, you know, we get complaints all the time of travelers being stuck behind trains, and we work very closely with Union Pacific, but of course, we can only do so much. But we did identify this project as one for mobility because of the issues that we're experiencing. So this is including block crossings, maintenance at various times throughout the day that's causing the roadway or the crossing to be closed for various periods of time. So this project will upgrade and expand the current railroad monitoring system, which will allow for better train detection, allow for more direction, speed, and length, and it will also assist us in our business park area as well as Stafford and Missouri City. So that will help each of the neighboring cities as well as ourselves better detect when the railroad system is going to block the crossings, so we can get the information out to our residents that a crossing is getting ready to be blocked. So very important project for the entire city and Fort Bend County. Next slide, please. And that's just a map showing the overview. Next slide. Stepping into surface water, there is one new project. This is the North Wastewater Treatment Plant Reuse Project. So as you know, we have an integrated water resource plan that has identified projects for the city to move forward in an effort to continue to be in compliance with the Fort Bend Subsidence District regulations, as well as make sure that we are efficiently and effectively having great quality of water resources. So this PER will study the reclaimed water facility at the North Wastewater Treatment Plant, which of course is located off of 59. Excuse me. Next slide, please. And there's the map. Next slide. Stepping into wastewater, there are several projects identified in our wastewater. The first one, this is a citywide wastewater generator assessment project. This is a programming project, and you will also see this in the water projects. So this is a project that has been identified based off of the winter freeze that we currently had in 2021. So it was determined that there was a greater need to invest in the rehabilitation and or replacement of different generators. So the goal of this assessment is to identify the current conditions of all of our generators and see what needs to be done in those locations, whether they need to be replaced or whether they can be rehabilitated. The next project is the West Wastewater Treatment Plant Expansion Study. This is a study based off of a previous study that was evaluated the potential flows contributing to the West Wastewater Treatment Plant or the North Wastewater Treatment Plant service areas. That study determined that the West Wastewater Treatment Plant service area would provide a better alternative for conveying future flows from our areas. And so this project is to actually study the West Wastewater Treatment Plant, the existing process system, make sure that there are operational issues, and if there are, what type of operational issues are there and how we can increase capacity to receive those additional flows. So this is just allowing us to have more detailed about the West Wastewater Treatment Plant to receive the proposed flows. The next project is the evaluation of Greatwood West Wastewater Treatment Plant rehabilitation alternatives. So as you know, we have a wastewater master plan, and based off of the master plan update, this project was identified as needing to move forward to determine what type of rehabilitation the Greatwood plant would require. So this study will determine capacity availability within the existing treatment plant, as well as what type of design criteria we would need to meet within the Texas Commission of Environmental Quality. This will also assist us in identifying issues within the process that can cause non-compliance to TCEQ requirements. The next project is the Regional Wastewater Siting and Distribution Plan. Again, as part of our wastewater master plan, this project was identified for a planning level wastewater collection system. This will help us to model and confirm what type of infrastructure is needed in Greatwood that it doesn't have today, and how we can better serve the capacity and the growth within our projected growth within the ETJ. So this study will analyze our regional service within that area to help us determine what projects and what type of improvements need to be done for Greatwood for the ETJ. The last one is the Flow Monitoring and Wastewater Modeling Study. And that project, so this is a model that we've identified and used through our GIS files, which included wastewater flows based off of the city's equivalent single-family connection database. And so what this project will do will allow us to build sensors and within the wastewater pipes to measure the wastewater flows. And then that information will be put into our model to allow us to have more definitive information as it relates to our wastewater flows within our system. Next slide. And this is just a map showing the regional projects. Next slide, thank you. So we are going to step into water. So the first one, again, we talked about the wastewater generator assessment. This is the equivalent for the water side, so I won't really get into it. It's basically doing the same thing. These projects will run concurrently as well. The next one is the main system water modeling study and capacity recommendations. Again, projects that you are seeing tonight mostly came from our wastewater master plan or our water master plan. So this is a project that came from our water master plan. This study will complete the model for our city main system, which would provide staff with hydraulic models of the entire system and identify future capital improvement projects and planning level costs for those projects. The next project is the cost for the Soldiersville Road project. So as we identify roadway projects to be improved, we also often have the utilities that would need to be improved with that project funded from the enterprise funds or from the utility funds. And so Soldiersville is an extension of the Soldiersville Court from Highway 6 and First Colony. And so this project will construct a 12-inch water line that is needed to serve the future animal shelter, PD courts, and our emergency operations center within that area. I would say that this was also a 2019 GEO bond project. So you will be seeing this come up often because that project is ongoing. Ransom Road, this is a 2020 Fort Bend County Mobility Bond project. This is for the reconstruction and widening of Ransom Road near 99 and the reconstruction of its connector road at US 59/I-69. So the city will be responsible for the improvements to the city's utilities during the construction. And so this project is for funding the construction of the 12-inch water line for that project. The last water project is the Regional Water Facility Siting and Conveyance Study. Again, this is from our water master plan. And so this is a model, and the model will confirm, again, what type of infrastructure improvements will need to be done at Greatwood for our capacity to serve the growth projected in our ETJ. And so this study will analyze that regional service alternatives for that area. And next slide. And this is just a map showing those locations, approximate locations. And with that, that is the end of the presentation. So staff is asking that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend the FY 22 through 26 capital improvement program, new projects list to the city manager and city council. And with that, I will entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you, Keisha, for that very detailed, helpful report. We'll go through the line and see if we have any questions from our commissioners. Commissioner Anglin?
Keisha, thank you. That was very informative. I learned a lot more about the details involved there, and I just want to thank you for all the time and effort you put into that. And I have to say that the street modifications, I know our residents are going to be very happy with the choices that y'all made to make those improvements. So other than that, listening to your other projects, I don't have any questions at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hart.
I guess I'm surprised there's no drainage projects.
Sure.
That's pretty surprising.
So if you recall our drainage projects, a lot of our projects have been moved into the GEO bond, and there was a 2019 GEO bond approval of the drainage projects that are currently ongoing. So there are no new drainage projects because there's no new bond.
And I do have a question. I'm looking at the U of H Sugarland campus roadway project.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, was a traffic study done to determine that this was the alignment that would relieve? I guess I just don't, I'm trying to figure out what the need is, and are there going to be 2 more traffic signals along University Boulevard now at these locations?
Those are both very good questions. There is a TIA that is actually being done for this area, but we've been working with TxDOT and with the University of Houston. If you can, and I'll zoom in, if you can go back to that slide, the map. Ms. Christie.
Yeah, I actually have it open on my screen. That's why I'm
Okay.
looking. I'm not looking at you because I'm looking at that. So pardon me for not looking at you.
Not a problem. So if you notice, the red line is actually coming off of Festival Site Boulevard, right?
Mhm.
And so what happens is now people can go to 59, go down Festival Site and take that connection road through U of H to University. Now we are studying whether there needs to be a signal there or not, especially along the roadway adjacent to University, which would be the connector road. We are still looking into the TIA and finalizing the TIA. But yes, that's the reason why that roadway is being connected, so we can take traffic, get traffic into U of H as well as the festival site and the Brazos River Park.
Okay, because I was looking at that. It doesn't connect to the campus. It connects to University. It goes from Festival Boulevard to, at least the red line does.
Right, and that's actually the University of Houston's campus as well. So once it's all said and done, the roadway itself would be securitous, and it will all connect to both the University of Houston as well as to University Boulevard.
Okay, I'll rely on the traffic professionals.
I know
it looks like a road to nowhere to me, but
right. But we've certainly been working very closely with U of H, and trust when I say they will not allow us to put a road to nowhere that will not benefit them. Unfortunately, this map does not show their campus layout. If we had the campus layout on this map, you would have a better understanding of how the roadways connect, both for them as well as for the city's parks.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much, Keisha.
Absolutely.
That's all I had, Commissioner, or Mr.
Thank you very
Chairman.
much. Commissioner Brown?
Keisha, again, nice job on this. I think the wish list is long here for what's going to come in the future. Help someone out that's kind of new to the commission. When does this go from the wish list to when it begins to meet the costs and getting on real budgets?
Absolutely. Great question. So we actually, if the commission approves the list tonight, I will take that list to City Council on the first meeting in July, where they would have an opportunity to review the list themselves. In that meeting, though, is actually a budget workshop. So it would be the engineering department as well as the budget department that will go through the 5-year CIP, which will include the proposed list. And so that will start a number of budgetary workshops that we do with the City Council in the July, August timeframe. The list itself and the projects are typically filed in July, and the 5-year CIP that is fiscally constrained is adopted in September. And so October 1st, of course, starts our new fiscal year. So by that time, the funding has already been solidified and the projects have been approved.
Good deal. You've answered my question. Thank you very much. And thank you again, Keisha, for the report.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Ushold?
Thank you. Yes, a lot of work, obviously, and a big heady list to go on through here. Got several questions here with parks.
Mm-hmm.
So in our first one with the Old Imperial Farm Cemetery,
yes.
Help me understand, isn't this the same cemetery that the school district is having to deal with, or is this a different cemetery?
This is a different cemetery. The city actually owns a cemetery adjacent to Eastern and US 90A. If you've been in that area, there's a small cemetery there, but it is fenced off. But that's the city's property, and that's where they're proposing the 65-acre community park be. And I don't know, you have the map open, or Christy, if you want to go back to the map. There is a cemetery right in the corner somewhere near Easton and the ditch. And that cemetery is where they're going to propose the design and historical findings of that cemetery. So this is not the same one that you're referring to. And that's a very good question, because some people would think that is the same cemetery that Fort Bend ISD is dealing with.
They're close together, though. Am I mistaken? They're a block away. Is there any coordination being done with these?
No, because this again is well, you know what? Let me have Parks Department, which are on the call, if they want to step in, either William or Finland, because they may know something more than I do as it relates to the coordination of the two cemeteries.
Okay.
William or Finland, do you want to take that question?
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Keisha. Hi, my name is Feng Du. I'm the Parks Development Manager. I will start, and William could chime in. So basically, as Keisha mentioned, that these two cemetery sites are different. So the one on our city side is called the Old Imperial Farm Cemetery. That is has a historic marker, and it's fenced off. It's to the very west of that green space you see on the map.
Yes.
So the cemetery site that Fort Bend ISD has been protected is actually outside of the green space you see. However, it's very close to the east edge of that property. As part of the 65-acre community park, we would like to use this opportunity to discover better ways to help preserve the historic culture of Sugar Land, and find a way to have a connection between the two sites so that it provides more educational and cultural background to the visitors. So that's part of the tasks we are thinking.
So, but, and I know this isn't the school board meeting, but I am fairly certain that the school board is doing the exact same thing a 5-iron away.
Right.
There was.
So,
yeah.
That's my question is, are we going to coordinate these together so that
Yes,
we're not
sir.
overlapping, so that we don't find another
Definitely.
100 bodies underneath and wind up stuck again? Or are we going to just bang our head against the wall?
We have several departments have been involved in a conversation with Fort Bend ISD. So I know the coordination has been going on, and then the two sites, they are at different places, and they are going to have their own characters and their own design that will be that will have some kind of connection.
Why?
And the design will consider that.
These aren't, historically speaking, these cemeteries serve the same general group of people, although the ones they found by the school were obviously put aside from the regular population of the cemetery. But this was obviously the burial grounds of early Sugar Land. This whole lot here along this watershed, why are we building a separate cemetery monument that's literally, like I said, this is a 5-iron, well, maybe not my 5-iron, maybe Phil Mickelson's 5-iron, but this is literally right next door to the other cemetery project that Fort Bend ISD is already dealing with.
Commissioner,
Yes.
I know that we did look at the opportunity of letting Fort Bend ISD relocate their discovered burial ground to our cemetery, and they decided against it. So I know that a lot of that was decided by Fort Bend ISD since that was on their property, and this is our property. And so they decided against that and leave them as they lie. And I think that's the big. I think that was the big deciding point.
Okay.
Yeah, to add to what William just said, for the if we're talking about the existing cemetery in the city's site, the first part of it is we need to preserve that site. How to better preserve site? How to better preserve this site is a question to answer in this project. And the Fort Bend ISD or the owners previously, they have done the archaeology studies, and then this project will allow us to have an opportunity to do more in-depth archaeology study. Certainly, if there are any discoveries, and we will have the professionals to help us to preserve whatever that needs to be preserved. So archaeology will be a huge component of this. Yeah.
All right. No, that's fantastic. And I think that needs to be done. I would just recommend to the city and staff, and William, great to see you again. Haven't seen you in a while. That there is a whole new regime at Fort Bend ISD, including a dramatic change in board members, as well as an entirely new superintendent. So this may be something that's worth exploring again. Because I love the history that we have here in Sugar Land, and I would love to see this be able to be coordinated somehow, also so that the city didn't have to brunt the full face of this. I think it's worth another look to go back to Fort Bend ISD just because of their leadership changes. So all right, but thank you for re-educating on that location.
Thank you for the questions. Great questions. Thank you.
My next question's on the streets. University Boulevard widening was on the previous year's list, and I'm trying to figure out what the difference between the 2021 request to add it, the University Boulevard widening mobility bond project. Is this a different? I don't understand the difference between the two.
Sure. So the city had a 2019 GeoBond street project called University Boulevard Widening Project. That project is from New Territory Boulevard to just south of Lexington Boulevard, and it would widen the current or existing roadway from 4 lanes to 6 lanes within the median. Due to mobility constraints in that area and the heavy traffic congestion in that area, we also looked at modifying intersections that we currently or at that time did not look at. Those intersections were Westcott and Branford Place. And because of that, those projects were included in the 2020 Fort Bend County Mobility Bond, which was approved. And so this project is for those intersections only, and the city's 2019 GeoBond project is for the actual widening. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
Okay.
Also, when we talk about these street projects, we had a couple of weeks ago, we had on our hike and bike folks, do their recommendations make it into your street widening projects to start to include those bike trail or bike access with all 3 of these? Is that now the SOP, the standard operating practice procedures with these road widening projects, or are we not taking those into consideration?
That's a great question. Yes, we do. Monique Johnson, who is our transportation mobility manager, who also works in the engineering department, she keeps us on our toes and makes sure that we put in our side paths and resired sidewalks. However, keep in mind that the university widening project is in the median. So we would not be touching the outside, but ideally, yes, roadway projects always currently now include side paths and sidewalks based off of our mobility master plan.
Fantastic. you mentioned, I heard it just briefly, but I didn't see it written in here. With the Highway 6, I think you mentioned it at the Brook Street and First Colony Boulevard intersections.
Correct.
I think you mentioned anybody that's been in Sugar Land's been stopped by a train. Anybody else that's lived in Sugar Land finds an alternate as far as going down Highway 6 because of that traffic light timing. But I could have swore I heard you say something about traffic light timing on Highway 6.
So two things. We have the Highway 6 widening project that is wrapping up. I'm actually the project manager for that project, so I understand your pain, but we are wrapping that project up as quickly as possible. And then the First Colony and Brook Street project will be on its heels. What I was referring to is the ITS railroad monitoring along US 90A. That is the one where you are always stopped by trains, and sometimes, they've been most eloquently called the ghost trains because you're stopped with crossings down, but you see no train. And so that project will help us to better monitor, better receive early detection so we can get that notification out to the public.
So that's on the train side, but there's not going to be anything done with the timing of traffic lights on Highway 6?
Well, our traffic department always times the traffic signals along all the infrastructure, so all of our roadways. Once we're done with Highway 6, we currently don't have all of the signals because we are waiting on one more. But once we're done, yes, they will redo the timing on Highway 6 to make sure that they are concurrent flow.
That's fantastic.
Flow.
That's fantastic. One of the things that I see here predominantly throughout here, I saw it with the railroad communications, I saw it with the U of H. There's mentions in here of installing fiber optic cable for the city, and then in this case for the traffic lights. But we haven't seen anywhere in the city of Sugar Land, and it has never become more needed than over the past year and a half, with a lot of people working from home and working in Sugar Land, is fiber optic connections for residents in Sugar Land, because currently it doesn't exist pretty much anywhere in the city of Sugar Land for us to even have the option to go with a fiber optic provider for residential service. Is that something that the city is looking to partner with someone like Verizon or AT&T with, or are we going to continue to leave that as individual point-to-point construction for businesses and for the city?
So I am going to have to defer that question to either Brian Butcher, our Director of Public Works, or Eric Oscarson, our Assistant Public Works Director, if they would know that or not. If not, then we have to do that for you.
Sure, Keisha. Can y'all hear me all right?
Yes.
Hear me all right, Keisha? So good evening. I'm Brian Butcher with Public Works. No, the ability, all of the fiber optic stuff that we're talking about would be for city use and tying city infrastructure back to our communication grid so we can better serve our citizens. When you talk about private industry or residents tying into fiber lines, that gets into private utilities and franchise agreements and things along those lines. We currently are not, to my knowledge, actively pursuing, at least not through the Public Works Department, anything like that. You see other cities doing that as part of smart city initiatives and things like that. That might be something in the future, but it's definitely not anything that's tied to any of the details for the projects you saw tonight.
Brian, is that something I need to go door to door to get a bond initiative for, or is that something that we could eventually plug into a fiscal year project?
So I really can't answer that. I don't think anybody from our team could answer that, because that's a private utility thing. We don't own the phone lines, we don't own the gas lines, we don't own the electric lines, and we don't maintain them, operate them. That would be something that you would have to work out with AT&T or Windstream or whoever owns and maintains those lines within our city. That's not something that's not a service that the city provides.
Sure. And I was thinking, Brian, you hit on it, where there are different cities that are going smart city grids. And what I've heard in those cities is that it actually took the city manager or someone in that city staff department to partner with a Windstream or with a Verizon or an AT&T to get those established.
It's definitely something that that could be looked at. It's not something that, again, in the context of tonight's project, it's not something that we're working for. And I know our IT department is currently working very aggressively on a connectivity master plan, again, tied toward making sure all of the city infrastructure is connected in a reliable, fast way. But as far as replacing the private utility portion of that, it's not something that it's tied to that master plan.
All right. Thank you very much, Brian. That wraps up the questions I have. I do have a suggestion for you, though. And this is, I just watched one of last year's projects wrap up because it's right in my backyard, where you wrapped up the drainage at the Dam 3 at Oyster Creek in Lexington. That's right by my house. I got to watch that kind of wrap up. One of the things I don't think you do a good enough job of before you send this out, to tell us your success and what you've done on the open capital projects and that have now been completed and they're done, because you guys do a fantastic job with these. But sometimes we don't remember that that was a project that we approved over a year ago. So just a suggestion for you to make sure you've got that list handy to show all the work, the hard work that you are doing, because it is very much appreciated, especially when commissioners like me ask you stupid questions.
Never a stupid question. But we are noting that for next year. Okay.
Thank you. And that's all I had. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Andy. Commissioner Canine?
Yeah, my only comment is to compliment Keisha on a fine presentation, a thorough presentation, and keeping us on point. Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you, Jay. Dan?
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts, but before I forget, Andy, I would argue that the state of the city, particularly this last time, because it was all video, they really tell us what they did and, you know, the whole bit. So I know that's one
And
outlet.
I missed it this year, Dan. I missed it this year. So yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
I'm sure it's online. It was a heck of a production, and it really, really outlined everything they accomplished that year. I have two questions, and really that there are more concerns or observations. And Jesse, you may need to weigh in on this. On the Brook Street First Colony, I noticed that it talks about signal timings and to provide for concurrent left turn movements. You mean as opposed to sequential?
Concurrent.
First Brook Street, then First Colony. You're gonna strive to do it so all four lanes can turn left together?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Jesse, city engineer. Currently, when you turn onto Highway 6, either from Brook Street or First Colony, you have to wait. You know that the two direction cannot do simultaneously. After this improvement, the geometry improvements and signal timing, both directions from Brook Street onto Highway 6 and from First Colony onto Highway 6, you can concurrently turning on Highway 6. So that definitely, reduce the reduce.
Oh, you froze up. Everything froze up on my end.
Intersections.
Right. The First Colony, I'm thinking that approach, you'll have to get right away. Am I assuming, is that correct? Because it's a very narrow northbound 2-lane, and then the right turn in the through lane. It's very narrow. So I'm thinking you would have to get right away as well. So
Do you remember the detailed design on that intersection? I don't have it on top of my head. I think we need to shorten one of the nodes, in the median.
Right. So we will actually be going into the median as opposed to going outward to the right of way along the curbside.
And I trust that this widening that just concluded on Highway 6 accounts for this.
Yes.
The geometry is already there on 6, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then my last question, or my second question on this particular one, what is the timing of that construction with regard to the traffic circle that's planned for Soldiers Field and First Colony Boulevard, and then 2, the extension of Soldiers Field around to Highway 6? I mean, that's going to be a lot of activity in that area. I wonder, are they going to be sequential or are they going to be simultaneous? Talk about that for a minute if you could.
Sure. So the Soldiers Field design is currently wrapping up, and then the construction is scheduled for FY23. So the Brook Street First Colony intersection improvements will go ahead of the Soldiers Field. The good thing is that the First Colony improvements with this Brook Street will not impact the Soldiers Field First Colony improvements. And of course, we're working together to make sure that the termini of the Brook Street project for First Colony is where they pick up for the Soldiers Field. So, we'll make sure that we're coordinating that geometry.
Okay, thank you.
The intersection improvements is a relative small project, and we definitely can get that done fairly quick comparing to Soldiers Field. Even they are, we are actually budgeted in 2 different fiscal years. Even for those type of improvements, even they are in the same year, we could, schedule them apart, making sure, we don't impact traffic that much.
Right. Okay. That's all I had for that street project. My only other question is kind of a global one. If we hadn't lost the Brazos River turnaround, would we, together with U of H, have ever contemplated a road like the one that's going in, or is this mostly being driven because we lost that facility?
That's a very good question. Actually, if you look at UH master plan, I know they have several versions, but there's one version they did, and we consider its latest, even then that was done a few years ago. There is a road connecting to University Boulevard through the UH campus. And I think the turnaround closing, it just moved the project up quite a few years. They had that plan all along to connecting the existing ERP, entrance road all the way to University Boulevard. That's on their master plan.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all I have. And Keisha and of course, all the other members of the staff, thank you. Good job.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan. And I'll just add to the comments of some of the other commissioners. Keisha, thank you very much for a thoughtful and well-organized and informative report. I'd like to thank the other members of the various city departments who were on the call tonight. Very, very seamless handoff in places, and excellent job of providing us with additional information and responding to all the really good questions that were asked. So thank you all for taking the time to be with us tonight.
Absolutely.
Any further discussion on this issue? All right, I will make a motion that we make a recommendation of approval to the City Council of the fiscal year 2022-2026 capital improvement program.
I second that.
I've got a motion and a second from Commissioner Canine. Any further discussion? If you'll please vote at this time. All right. And it appears that passes unanimously among the members present. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For your work on this. Thank you again, Keisha and company, for everyone that did a great job tonight. We really, really appreciate it. Very, very helpful stuff. All right, moving on to item 6A, reports. Planning and Zoning Commission liaison report from the City Council meetings of June 15th and June 22nd. Commissioner Parikh had those reports and is not able to be with us tonight. And I will thank him in absentia for providing us with this report in advance of tonight's meeting, and I will simply read his notes at this time. From the June 15th meeting, Council officially ratified the generator rebate program, which allows Sugar Land residents to get a rebate on the permitting and installation costs of generators. Council also approved a contract for groundwater plant rehabilitation project. And a majority of the meeting was spent getting updates from Rick Ramirez and Snapper Carr on the Texas legislature's recently concluded session as well. For this June 22nd meeting, Commissioner Parikh notes that the activities were appointment of 3 associate judges for the City of Sugar Land Municipal Courts to be able to resume backlog of jury trials. They conducted a workshop for Brazos Park Phase 3 improvements for the skate park, pickleball courts, etc., utilizing the 2013 Park Board funds, and review and discussion on proposed revisions to the Hill Area Residential HR1 that we approved recently, and it appears that those were all well received by council. And that concludes Commissioner Parikh's report. So thank you again, AP, in your absence, for providing us with that information. Item 6B, City Staff Report. Doug?
You're muted.
Audio's not working, Doug.
Unmuted, but still no audio, looks like.
I'll see if I can pinch it here. So a couple of things. Your next meeting would be in July. We are looking to see if there is anything that will be put on that agenda. So stay tuned for that meeting. We also sent out an email, so all of you should have received, let me know if you didn't, but asking for some feedback from all of the commission on your preference related to in-person meeting attendance or the ability to do some hybrid type meetings. I did mention previously that there was a bill that we were tracking through the legislative session that would have allowed us to do fully virtual remote style meetings in non-emergency situations. However, that did not pass. But we still have some ability to do some type of hybrid meeting. However, the one or couple of caveats there is that we would still need an in-person quorum to take place for the location that is posted on the agenda. So we would still need some in-person attendance. So we're anxious to hear from all of you. I know we've heard from a couple of you already, so really appreciate the prompt response. And we would be looking to move to this in the July timeframe. There is a current executive order, emergency declaration from the governor. We're waiting to see if that would be extended. If it is, then we can continue the fully virtual type meetings. If not, then we would need to move to kind of the hybrid or fully in person. So anxious to hear everyone's feedback and happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Lisa. Now, Doug, that's how you do the report right there. Come on. I'm going to have to take one shot when you can't respond. That's unfair. In all seriousness, thank you very much for the good report. Doug, thank you for the good reports that you usually get at this time of the meeting. They're very helpful to us to plan what's going on next. And there not being any other business on the agenda for this evening, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
All right. I think I saw a voice and at the same time, so I'm going to go Commissioner Brown, motion. Commissioner Ushel, will you second that, please?
Seconded.
We've got a motion in favor. Aye, that motion passes. Thank you, everyone, for your great work tonight. Thank you again, city staff. Everyone have a great evening and be safe. We are adjourned.
Recording
Good night,
stopped.
everybody.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you for your time.